What he did in Iceland.
What he did was ill-disciplined, utterly reckless. Give me one good reason to put him in the program, Mom.
I think you just covered them all.
Hello, welcome to Outside Xbox. I'm Mike, joined by Jane.
Hello.
And we are here to talk about the differences between the new James Bond game, 007 First Light, and the Hitman games, which were also made by IO Interactive. Now, obviously, we're big fans of Hitman here. You could consider us experts, maybe to varying degrees. And so we know a little about what makes Hitman Hitman, and we're really curious to see how much Hitman there is in the new 007 game, and it seems like there's quite a lot from the demos that have been released. But there are also a bunch of differences, and I think that's where it's going to get really interesting to see how IO handles a character-led, maybe more narrative-led game. I think the first thing to talk about is the fact that this is going to be, by necessity, a more narrative-led, story-led game. Obviously, when you play the Hitman games, you are a kind of character who is a blank slate in terms of both his character and his expression. But this new game, obviously, James Bond is a well-known character, known for his charm, known for being able to talk his way out of situations and stuff.
They had poor taste, if you ask me, and got what they deserved.
Pardon me? Need to see a man about a bag.
So I think just the fact that you're going to be playing as James Bond and that there is going to be more kind of narrative woven into those levels, I think is a big difference, right?
Yeah, absolutely. James Bond has a whole lot of personality where Agent 47 is sort of defined by
his absence of
like a cold-blooded vacuum of personality.
This is the downstairs living room. It is most commonly used for watching television and other recreational purposes. Large room with 2 easy-to-get-to exits. Dark floors hide stains easily.
I think it's fair to say, no shade on 47, don't come for me. Don't come for me, Agent 47 specifically.
Yes.
Yep. The quality of being like a movie franchise, probably the movie franchise, I guess, is going to make this a cinematic game, or should make this a really cinematic game.
I'm not loving the odds.
I've had worse.
And although both games look incredible, I think the visuals we've seen so far in 007 First Light are really, really sumptuous, really elevated, gorgeous Hitman environments. I think they have to be presented in a different kind of way. Because of the nature of you're telling a James Bond story, you're not inviting someone to sort of make up their own Agent 47 assassination story,
Yeah, indeed. I think that's one of the, big questions I have as someone who doesn't necessarily play Hitman in a kind of orthodox fashion compared to how you're maybe supposed to play it. And I enjoy that freedom.
Dispassionate way of describing your playstyle.
I play it real silly and real chaotic.
Yeah. Oh dear. Oh dear.
Boom!
Oh, quick, get in the dumpster, otherwise we are perhaps not getting out of here in one piece either.
I do wonder whether the fact that you are sort of having narrative beats that you need to hit, if you're going to have a car chase, you need to be in the right spot for that car chase to happen at the right time.
Looking for these?
Hold on.
I do wonder whether that level of freedom is just impossible in a game that is also trying to tell a more sort of coherent, action-packed, well-paced story. I mean, if you look at a Hitman level, I feel like Hitman levels kind of run to their own schedule. Things happen and you can intervene and start sort of fiddling with things, but the stories sort of occur around you and you're just a sort of interloper, whereas this is a James Bond story and things will happen when you're at the right place for them to happen, not before and not after. That car chase can't happen if there's no James Bond chasing the car.
Look out!
So I do wonder how that's going to affect, because obviously freedom of choice is a bit of an IO Interactive trademark, and they are keen to emphasize that there will be lots of freedom of choice and a lot of what they've learned in Hitman will apply here. But I do wonder whether it is going to affect the sort of the way the game flows.
Yeah, in the Gamescom demo that we both saw, and in fact was part of the State of Play presentation, which actually had some additional material in it, it begins with the open world, sort of Hitman adjacent kind of stuff, and then it moves into the car chase stuff, and then there's a kind of, sort of action Uncharted shootout type set piece. hard to say from like the artificial quality of a gameplay demo like that, like what proportions those elements are going to be present in. And just generally, I think it is hard to tell at this early stage how flexible a flexible like open world bit is. So even that kind of like beginning part of the demo where you're in like a fancy manor house for a chess match, right?
Yes, it's like a chess tournament,
Yeah, there's only so much of a read you can get on the way the game will accommodate you by watching a demonstrator play their way through that demo.
Yeah, I think
I mean, they were
couple
sort of signaling, oh, you could do it this way or you could do it this way, which is great and cool. But like until that game is in your hands, it's really hard to like test the kind of boundaries of what is and isn't like allowed, you know.
I think there were a couple of clues to suggest that obviously there's a bit where the demo cuts and it says like inevitably, you know, things kick off, right?
Just need a quiet word. Nothing dramatic.
I wonder whether that is because they wanted to kind of show the Hitman bit and the car chase and then the action bit in kind of
stuff.
like you say, in equal proportion. So it wouldn't surprise me if actually a lot of that initial level is kind of, or a lot more of that initial level is that kind of traditional Hitman sneaking. Once you're inside the hotel manor house thing, sneaking around, getting into the right position, etc., etc.
Bond, status.
All was quiet in the parking lot. No sign of 009.
Bear in mind, like the start of that demo, you're trailing a bellhop, right? A blonde sort of bellhop who you've seen tossing a suitcase over a cliff, right?
Not exactly the 5-star treatment.
The car chase is with 009, as far as I can tell, who is the actual target that they're supposed to be going after. So clearly a lot happens between those two things. And so I think, and I'm actually hoping, because I think we all love that Hitman style of gameplay, that you know, there's a little bit in terms of how you get in, and there's maybe fewer options in terms of how you get into the actual building. But once you're in there, you have a bit more of that open flexibility that would be kind of dull to show in a protracted sort of gameplay demo. So they've trimmed that out, and then the end of it is your treat at the end for doing all your hitmanning is then the spectacular car chase.
Yeah, that would be my preference as well. That like the lion's share of the game is somewhat Hitman-like. Open world, like multiple path, flexible, expressive sort of play. Although it has to be within the confines of like hitting the story beats that you need, and especially it has to be confined by like beginning and ending at the kind of like story dictated moments. So you come in as a chauffeur and you go out in a position that allows you to begin a car chase, right? But yeah, I guess we will see. That would be my preference as well.
The cap looks good on you though. Really brings out your cheekbones.
I think what's the other thing I thought was interesting and was maybe a little clue as to how this mission fits into the wider narrative of the game is that you don't have a gun throughout that entire first part with the chess tournament, right? You are handed a gun at the end of the car chase, and that's when it turns into an action sort of shooting game.
Oh, in that case, get down there, draw their fire. I'll flank them.
But for that entire thing, I was like, he doesn't have a weapon. In this mission, am I not going to have a weapon? And it makes me wonder whether this is like quite an early, like this is one of the first missions where you're not equipped with all your kind of gadgetry, and it's almost like a tutorial for like, here are the systems, here's how this bit works and stuff. And so I wonder whether it actually might be one of the more linear opening bits to a mission, because it really wants you to drive in, park at the car park, get the press pass, right? It's sort of, it feels almost tutorially in that it is quite, I don't know how many other ways there are to climb in through that top window.
Find a lucky.
Gate crashing a black tie event. Haven't done that since final year.
I wonder whether you might have a bit more flexibility in, say, the Kensington level that they also showed.
Yeah.
I wonder whether this is early in the game. You know, there's very much a sense that James Bond is this sort of the lowest on the rung on the ladder of the team that are deployed at this place. They're all inside the hotel with like cool locations and stuff, and he's waiting in the car park wearing a chauffeur's
And he really hates that.
Yeah.
Like, MI5 is like, that's the guy for us, the guy who hates following orders.
Yeah.
Who can't wait in a car park. Get him in a position of responsibility.
It takes
now.
literally like 2 minutes for him
He's
to
so
start
bored.
ignoring orders. They're like, don't do that. That's a direct order. He's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Bond, reporting suspicious behavior.
009?
No, one of the hotel staff. Strangest looking bellhop I ever saw. He was mishandling luggage.
Are you joking? What are we, the local tourist board?
I guess he had to be there. It was odd. I'm gonna check it out.
You will not. 009 is our only priority. Stay at your post, James. That's an order.
Yes, Mom.
But it's cool as well that, you know, not all of these kind of more spectacular narrative-led moments are just cutscenes, or even just, you know, a car chase. There's the moment where you're on the plane and you hack the terminal and gain access to the flight controls, and then you're actually sort of, instead of the plane shifting from side to side in a kind of scripted fashion, you're actually in control of it and able to, you know, move things over and use it to kind of thwart enemies. I thought that was nice that it's going to have not just narrative set piece moments, but also unique gameplay stuff. I can't imagine there are several missions where you're in control of the flight controls of a plane. You know, it's a sort of one-off, like, novelty thing that you get to play with that sort of spices things up.
Never a dull moment.
Yeah, it's going to be, I mean, in my mind, it's like Hitman-style open-world gameplay shaped by a James Bond story with a smattering of, like, exotic gameplay that lets you do the, you know, big action set pieces. Yeah.
And I think the other thing is that he's a much chattier character. You talk about him, he's communicating with his team, but when you hop into the hotel and startle a bunch of people who probably recognize that people shouldn't be climbing through windows, he immediately says, "Oh, I'm, you know, Ken Banks, the penetration expert or whatever, and I need to
It's
talk to
fine
your
that
boss."
I just jumped through the window. I'm meant to be here.
Ken Banks, penetration tester. I need to have a stern word with your manager.
Good to have you on the team.
Exactly, and it's like,
he's got the charisma to pull that off, whereas 47, I think, is just a terrifying man who's jumped through your window. Yeah,
Yes.
there's no way he could sell that.
Indeed. But I think that's an interesting, you know, big narrative difference as well, is that, you know, I think as a kind of player insertion character, like 47 is that blank slate, whereas James Bond, it's going to feel a bit more like you're shepherding a character through a situation like an Uncharted or whatever. You know, those kind of quips and the kind of chatty, and, you know, when he's chatting to the two maids who are kind of dusting and they're like, "Ooh, we're going to put another mint on his pillow because he's so handsome."
Because he's dishy.
Which room is he in? Don't know. But he's getting an extra mint on his pillow.
47 has a different kind of appeal, I think.
A sort of a grim, austere,
terrifying
you know,
appeal, yeah.
with cheekbones for days.
Good work.
Wow, thanks, Mr. Kruger. Break a leg.
Yeah, that's a big difference as well.
And then, yeah, the personality is obviously a huge difference. Like, these are both games built around a central character, and they're opposite ends of some kind of spectrum of charisma, I think. Yeah. Like, not to say 47 isn't arresting in his own way. Please don't kill me, Agent 47.
He's got great abs.
Yeah, for sure. But I think James Bond has to socially engineer situations in ways that 47 does to an extent, but not the same. Like, there's a bit where you have to, in the Kensington level, there's part of the state of play demo. The Kensington level, Bond has to, like, pick up a camera so he can pose as a photographer or something.
Yeah.
He's like, what do you say? Like,
Photography can be such a negative experience.
but no, mate.
Oh, that's awful.
a kind of, like, eye roll James Bond joke that I think
Yeah.
47 would sooner die than make. His puns have to be like, "I'm about to kill you" puns.
Yeah, threatening.
You know?
Somehow
Yeah.
he delivers a pun in a threatening way.
Menacing puns
yeah.
about how he's about to kill you. You
Yeah.
know, doing sort of double entendres about death.
I guarantee a perfect execution.
James Bond is just like photography
really bad
quip.
dad jokes,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly, dad jokes. So another way
Well-
in which they're at opposite ends of the humour spectrum.
Up until this game, like, James Bond was an exclusively dad franchise as far as I was concerned. So, like, I guess
Yeah.
you need some dad jokes
Young
in there
James
for all
Bond.
the dads who are going to want to play this James Bond
Oh,
game.
maybe so. Yeah. Do you remember when they did, like, Young Indiana Jones?
Yes.
There was a TV show, Young Indiana
Yeah.
Jones. That's how I'm framing young James Bond in my mind.
Yeah.
Like,
Or the cartoon James Bond Jr., as Andy likes to point out.
I don't actually know of this cartoon. I'll have to check it
That
out.
I
Andy
think
keeps telling us
the plot of the
about
cartoon it was James Bond's son, and he's probably got
Oh.
loads of sons, like, knocking around,
it. Oh no, and they're all called James Bond.
and they're all called James Bond Jr. probably.
Yeah.
Another big difference in this game is this new resource that you can earn and spend while you're playing, which was, when we saw the game, it was called Agency, which I think is a great name for it. But in the state of play, they seem to be referring to it as Instinct instead. But either way, it's a sort of resource you gain by, from what I can tell, doing James Bondy type stuff. So, like, being spectacular or charming or doing something clever earns you this sort of ability.
Playing the game IO wants you as IO wants you to play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I expect to have a completely zeroed instinct bar the whole time, because I will be
It
not
sort
be
of
doing
reminds
that,
me of actually role-playing games, like tabletop role-playing games.
Yes.
You know, when you're awarded like inspiration for doing things that are in character.
Yeah.
So that's the analog from where I am.
But there was something similar in Hitman Absolution. I've not played it for a while, but there was a sort of a thing you could build up where, do you remember the thing in Hitman Absolution where you could walk past people and kind of shield your face? To get past
sort of touch the back of your neck.
Yeah, it was that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Keep using instinct until you are safely inside.
Hey, how's it going?
And that was
casual.
Yeah, that was tied to a resource. So I think this is something IO has experimented with before, but I think it's a bit more sort of well-rounded here. But it appears to be, just based on the kind of interface stuff, it appears to be you're able to spend it on several different things. One of the main ones appears to be what's called focus, which is just like a slow down time thing. You know, allowing you to slow down time slightly so you can get your shots off, or I don't know, like react to something that's happening. There was an option to bluff as well. Now, I wasn't clear on whether that bit where you hopped in and he claimed to be someone else. I didn't seem like that felt like a scripted moment rather than deploying a kind of bluff thing. But definitely in combat,
it was still that kind of interaction. Yeah, that was the style of it. Yeah.
But in combat, in the Kensington demo, I think there's a bit where things are escalating and it's almost a way to like diffuse the situation.
Oi, I need to find Saunders. There's a chance the suspect is dressed as security. The bastard could be hiding right under your noses.
Damn. I'll keep an eye out for new faces.
So you know there's situations in Hitman where you get into a sticky situation and you're like, oh, well, it's escalated too much now. All of a sudden you're in combat. Like, I think there are going to be opportunities to kind of just de-escalate things if you've got
contain the situation. Yeah. In fact, isn't that what it says when you resolve like a little combat instance in a certain room, and then it says like situation contained? I can't remember the exact wording. Something like that. So I think it is offering you like more opportunities and more methods to kind of contain the situation, so it doesn't become that kind of like Hitman cascading chaos.
Yes.
Where it's like, can I run without getting myself riddled with bullet holes and get out of this level?
Yep.
Which is necessary, right? Because you've got to see this thing through to the end of like the necessary story. Like you have to be here to witness the necessary story. You can't just be like, oh damn, it's all gone sideways, I've got to like shimmy down a drain pipe
and run out in a hail of bullets.
Yeah. So it makes sense that the levels will offer you more ways to kind of like shut things down, contain it, just like knock out a few people, rather than like the cascading situation where this person tells everyone on your level is like alert for you.
But then obviously in the Kensington level, it seems like it's possible for things to get bad enough that even a bluff won't get you out of the situation and you'll end up in combat anyway, which I thought was interesting.
Up until that point, I was like, well, I'm just going to be hammering the bluff button at all times. Like, just in case it is an opportunity available to me, just like bluff, 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 bluff.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like it's going to be all powerful, talk your way out of anything.
Excuse me? Who are you looking for?
Relax, off-duty museum security.
Don't.
And the other one, you appear to be able to use it as a lure. So instead of like throwing coins around, which has always been a slightly wacky like element of Hitman.
He just sort of says something under his breath, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Like, just, you know,
watch out.
Yeah.
And then someone's like, what? Someone talking over there.
Watch it. What?
That needs a look.
It'll be interesting to see how key a part of the kind of open level clockwork machine mix those abilities become, how like much you're likely to rely on them, or whether they're just a sort of little once or twice, you know, you'll have a moment where you can kind of bluff your way out of things.
I feel like the bluffs might be quite limited in number, and they're there for flavour rather than a really versatile tool that, you know, they haven't recorded like bluff voice lines for every character in the level, that kind of thing.
Just looking for the bathroom.
Other side of the bar.
But that's definitely a new thing. You know, we haven't really had to deal with much in the way of resource management in Hitman. In fact, even ammunition. I feel like if you're in a situation in Hitman where you've run out of ammo, then things have gone extremely sideways. So
yeah, not often that you're reloading in Hitman.
No,
like,
indeed.
Not the way I play anyway. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you might have occasions where you've got like one item and you've got to deploy that, like lockpicks and hacking devices and stuff. But nothing like a bar where you're sort of managing that sort of uppy downy bar of resource. The moment in the demo I noticed where he earned the most of this resource was exploding a bunch of stuff at the airport. Which, like, I don't know much about being a secret agent, but my understanding was that it was to be like quite low key and maybe like go under the radar.
Not James Bond. Like James Bond, by like traditional conventional measures of being a spy, James Bond's like
is the worst spy.
Like the most, like conventionally, he's like an attractive man who is no way low key, who is sleeping with everyone's wife. Who is like, I don't know how he, they'd have his photo on the door in every embassy shindig,
exactly.
every like
do
villain's
not admit
lair.
this man.
Yeah, do not admit this extremely like recognizable Daniel Craig looking man who
Also,
is constantly blowing everything up.
He goes around telling everyone his real name all the time.
All
Bond,
the time.
James
Yeah.
Bond. Yeah, just in case you didn't catch the surname, he says the surname twice.
Yeah,
Awful spy.
I feel like recruitment at MI5 must
They really
really
dropped the
suffer
ball.
under James Bond because, well, no, I mean in the real world.
Oh.
Because I suspect in the real world being a spy is not that similar to being James Bond.
I have heard as part of the
That'd be
MI5 like interview process, they basically dig up every single bit of information on you that has ever been put on the internet, and then just and they present it all to you apparently, and see how they see how you react. Which is because I think they're trying to work out whether you have any weaknesses. But if you're
I mean, it makes sense. They need to know whether you can be blackmailed, whether you have like vulnerabilities, with any vices.
So if you're like, I stand by every single one of those drunken Facebook photos, they're like, congrats, you're in. And then that's how you end up with a James Bond. I think it's fair to say, although we absolutely love Hitman, it's not a game tuned for like combat, really. Combat is always a last resort in Hitman, or at least it's
combat
supposed
is
to.
the thing you do in the few moments before you die. In
Exactly.
Hitman.
Right. Yeah. You get a brief bit of combat before the screen goes dark and you fall over.
47 just sort of like crumples up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Oh lordy. Oh no.
Yeah, this is bad.
Oh
no.
Andy.
Exactly. This game looks a lot more tuned for firefights and for melee combat, essentially. So you get the big sequence at the end of the State of Play demo at the airfield where James Bond is shooting and punching loads of people. He spends a lot of time actually pushing people around as well. He's got this sort of move where he like charges forward with people and like dumps them off balconies or into like walls and things like that.
It's critical for your environmental takedowns, which personally, big fan of environmental takedowns. But yeah, you need to be able to reposition people if you need to take them out with, I don't know, a pool table or over a railing or into a glass panel or something.
But I think what was interesting about what they said in the demo was that the melee combat in particular has things like direct strikes, but also throws and parries and those environmental takedowns that you mentioned as well. So there's going to be a lot of options. It's a far cry from that sort of Hitman thing where you have like a moment to press the
like
punch button at the right time. Yeah. And then when they're on the floor, you sort of punch them in the back of the neck. It's like, we've definitely moved on from that, essentially.
Yeah, quick time combat. Yeah. Good.
But so that's great. It feels like there's going to be a bit more flexibility, a bit more flow to that. And the environmental stuff does look great fun. Dragging people around and like smashing them into stuff is always a good laugh and feels like a kind of scrappy sort of James Bond fight.
Yeah.
And then, the shooting just looks a lot more precise, basically. It looks like... I think there must be more health granted to James Bond than 47 gets. Again, because in a Hitman game, if the bullets start flying, you really are quite squishy and you don't have a lot of time to get away before you end up gunned down. Whereas, you know, in this, it feels like you'll be getting into cover and stuff, but it feels like you can have basically a stand-up fight with like 8 dudes and come out on top in a firefight, which is a marked difference from the Hitman experience.
I wonder how that will shift from moments when you are in a license to kill state.
Yes.
Which is like, it's kind of granted to you in moments where it's like, and now you're going to be shooting at people.
Yeah.
And then in moments where you're not in a license to kill kind of environment, like you're undercover at a gala or what have you.
You might have less health, yeah.
I wonder how often, I mean, maybe that, but also maybe like, are people going to be shooting at you at a moment when, I mean, you're not allowed to shoot at them, or it's not really designed for you to be shooting at them? Do you know what I mean? So I think there are going to be situations where combat doesn't come up a lot, or it only comes up if you've kind of like, if things have gone a little bit sideways. And then obviously there's stuff like the airfield, you know, moment where it's like combat is the only way. So yeah, they've got to toughen you up. Otherwise you're going to be crumpling like Agent 47, hit by a couple of bullets.
Push him out!
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I could definitely see them having that license to kill state as a mechanical shift. So the way they described it in the demo was like, if an enemy has approached you with an intent to kill, then you are granted a license to kill, and then you can go
I think that's
down.
fair. MI5. If someone's trying to kill me, then I feel like the license to kill is implied.
When enemies show clear intent to shoot and kill Bond, you will be granted a license to kill.
But does that mean I can't go around just like bumping people off when it's inconvenient where they're standing?
I feel like that is the implication that you will not be doing lethal stuff. I don't know if it's going to be like game over, you killed someone and you weren't allowed to.
I really hope not. Yeah.
But let's say for a moment, in the fiction of James Bond's world, I don't think he can just like snap the neck of a museum guard because he's in the way, you know? So
might be a brand crime.
If they're well, it might be an international incident if like a British spy kills a civilian who's guarding a museum exhibit. So maybe IO are trying to preserve like the sort of like the canonical purity, I guess, of like a James Bond.
But again,
who's allowed to kill a lot of people, but only under very specific circumstances, and not if they're like just someone whose clothes he wants to steal, I guess, you know. But I mean, 47, like famously, you can play that in a pretty non-lethal way, only killing your target. So that seems totally feasible for.
I've heard rumor of this, but I've never seen it myself.
It can be done. Okay, go do it.
Okay, hobby knife.
All right, get in there. Get in there.
No, I don't want to get in that.
No,
I want to get in that.
We don't have a key.
Okay.
Okay, obviously the crime has been noticed, but you've created a little bit of chaos now, which is
and they're down
all you need.
Down one guard, aren't they? Yeah, it does make me wonder about my style of play and how compatible it will be with the James Bond game, but like
yours is like the least James Bond compatible.
Yeah, apart from all the explosions.
I mean, the explosions that's pretty much in line, but wearing like a full clown wig and makeup and kind of capering around with a conga line of enemies like chasing you from room to room doesn't seem very slick or Bondy.
But it's fun. Okay.
Don't punch run! Don't punch run!
Kill!
Oh god. Okay, now quick.
Okay, I'm off.
Run as fast as your little...
Oh no, I got killed!
No!
Oh!
No, Mike, no! Oh, mission failed. It's fun. Well, I want to see how far you can stretch that. Like, if you can play a silly James Bond, you know, you can play like a farcical James Bond, or whether there's like a certain James Bond persona that they're like trying to preserve.
We'll see. A wrinkle that you will have to consider is that enemies have like armor types now, so there are more heavily armored enemies, and they'll take a lot more bullets. But what the game is trying to sort of steer you towards is environmental kills for them. So like dropping a chandelier on a heavily armored enemy will be the quicker way to take them out than like trying to fill them with bullets. So I think it's quite a nice way of sort of steering you towards more imaginative kills rather than just like gunning down like hundreds of guys basically. So I thought that was an interesting touch. And again, you don't really get like armored enemies so much in the Hitman games that I can recall. So
Yeah, I feel like if an enemy is armed, it's he is or she is exactly as imposing as any other enemy. You know? Like I feel like that's a thing. Yeah. But yeah, with your little watch laser, you can bring down a chandelier or something.
It's cool. Yeah, looks good. Big thing that is quite obvious that is not normally in Hitman is car chases.
Just who the hell are you?
Not now. Eyes on the road.
This car chase sequence looked kind of fine to me. I wasn't like blown away by it really, but it looked like, I think James Bond games, everyone expects that there will be a car chase in your James Bond game. And so I feel like they just feel like they have to put it in there. And I don't know that anyone ever really enjoys those segments very much, but this looked kind of par for the course. I was interested to talk to the developers about it because this is, if we're talking about the differences between Hitman, which is a very open, flexible game, this was the element of the gameplay that looked like it stood in the most stark contrast to that style. And they did say they were trying.
Yeah, car chase can't be flexible unless you're building like a GTA, like open world, fully drivable. It has to be extremely linear.
Yeah, indeed. What they said when I talked to the developers was they're trying to make it a sort of roller coaster with options. So it will be mostly linear, but there will be little shortcuts and stuff.
That's the car.
It's got too much of a head start. You need to cut some corners.
Careful what you wish for.
And I think one of the key things that they recognise, the other problem with car chases, James, is that they are chase missions, and always there's the danger that you fall too far behind the thing you're chasing and then you end up failing the mission, right? Which everyone hates. I don't know anyone who like enjoys that as a mechanic. So that's always a problem. But what the developers did at least say is they understand the frustration where you don't want to have a situation where you get like caught on a trash can and then the enemy's getting away and then you fail the mission, because that's like the least satisfying thing ever. So at least they're mindful of that stuff. But yeah, it looked fine.
Buckle up.
I liked that there was a bit at the beginning where you were driving slowly. Do you know what I mean? Where you weren't in a car chase and you were just...
Oh, the car looked really gorgeous. I mean, it gave you a moment to really appreciate the...
the metallic flake on the paint and all that stuff. And
what was it, a Jaguar? I forget.
XJ, Jaguar
I
XJ,
don't
yeah.
know about cars. But yes, okay. It looked incredible.
Halt!
Is everything in order?
Routine inspection, ma'am. Won't be a moment.
Whereas when you're in a car chase, you're not really looking at it as hard.
Yeah. I think one of the things that was interesting about that initial bit where you drive through quite a lot of the level to get to the actual sort of hotel.
And that was played, right? That wasn't like a sort of extended
that was
cutscene.
No, I think that was that you were in control of the car.
Could you chauffeur your
off a cliff? Yes, absolutely send it. Well, again, I want to find out, Jane. But what it told me was...
you take a shortcut to the manor house, like through the forest.
That'd be amazing, yeah. Shortcut. As the crow flies.
Yeah. I suspect not, but
it's a big level, and it looked like there were sort of areas of that level that were kind of, that looked ripe for exploration, but that you just kind of passed through in the car, and you're miles away from them when you're doing sort of what was presumably the bulk of that mission. So I thought that was quite interesting. The other thing I thought was quite interesting was that James Bond is too impatient to pull the little button in before he pulls the handbrake, which I think tells you a lot about him as a person.
Keep a low profile and don't let your guards down. 009 most certainly won't. Out.
That's a really intricate little detail that you noticed there.
Yeah, you can hear the ratchet thing go as he pulls it, and I'm just like, come on, man, bit of mechanical sympathy.
I mean, that's in character. He's impatient. Yeah. He can't wait in a car park for 10 minutes.
Without breaking direct orders and going and trying to kill someone.
This is how he climbed the ladder at MI5 so fast, because he can't stand waiting around.
One thing I was very excited to see in this game is conversation options, right? Like, this is new, certainly over and above what's available in Hitman. 47 will have conversations with people, but it's not really been a kind of an option where it feels like consequential in many cases, I don't think. Or if it has been, it's been like a one-off sort of choice. But this appears to be a mechanic that is handled a couple of times within the demo. You know, is obviously trying to bluff your way into the, or not necessarily bluff, but try and make your way into the hotel, and also talking to like a barman.
Wonder if you could help me.
I'll certainly try, sir.
Did you notice the blonde bellhop who just passed through here?
There's a face to pick out in the lineup.
There's conversation options there. I thought it was interesting that it's not really a kind of like Mass Effect branching narrative conversation options per se. I think from what I could tell, a lot of the other conversation options were sort of information gathering. So like they might provide clues as to how you could go about what you're trying to do, but it's not a kind of like you either choose this conversation option and this thing happens, or this conversation option and this thing happens. But obviously when you're trying to get into the hotel, the one that's grayed out is the one that is like, here's my press pass, right? Which kind of tells you that you've got to go and get a press pass in order to get past this guy.
Oh, damn. Forgot my press badge.
You're not the first.
Can I duck through? I need to catch up with that bellhop. Show me your ID and all's good. Better go and get my ID then, if you want to catch your bellhop.
Fair point.
So there appears to be one like solution to that conversation that actually results in the narrative moving forward. So, but it's a nice flavor thing. And again, you know, James Bond as a more talkative character, as a charming character and stuff like that's additional flavor to allow you to sort of role play the role of James Bond.
Yeah, so there's a lady waiting at the bar in the Kensington Gala, and you have elsewhere picked up, or maybe it's from her, you overheard someone talking about someone who's late to this party.
Yes, it is her.
And
Yeah,
that's
there's
how
an
you pick up the
eavesdropping
name.
mechanic.
Yeah.
If he doesn't make an appearance in the next 10 minutes, he can watch from down here. Yeah, do that. Rob Minkley, Crux Magazine.
And then you're like, oh, I'm the name of the guy who's late. And she's like, oh, well, there you are, finally. And if you didn't have that name, I assume that conversation option wouldn't be there, or it'd be grayed out, or what have you. So it's a way to kind of deploy your intel.
Rob Minkley. Sorry for the wait.
About time, Mr. Minkley. I almost gave up on you.
Whereas I think the Hitman equivalent would be like, there's no conversation option. There's no conversation in interaction until you have some intel to kind of like deploy on her.
Yeah, if you're wearing the right like outfit.
If you're wearing the
and
right
things
outfit,
like that.
yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I thought it was interesting that eavesdropping is a specific mechanic now. You know, you kind of press button to eavesdrop. But yeah, the sort of conversation option things, I think it's nice flavor, but I'm not expecting it to be a kind of anything as spicy as a sort of branching narrative, like
It's
really
not an
super
RPG.
consequential.
I mean,
exactly,
it's not that kind of RPG, for sure. In Hitman, you'd get kind of story opportunity,
mission stories,
revealing itself, that kind of thing, when you're listening to someone, and then the connected options would become available to you. So this is maybe like a more organic way of doing it, maybe a sort of more seamless way of doing that.
I think so, yeah, and it even has the same sort of like almost turquoisey green coloured like icon as the mission story stuff in Hitman next to the press pass thing, which I thought was
the presentation across the board is quite similar. You know, the white notice a dot and all the rest of it. So it's I think it's comfortable with the comparisons because the presentation is like so similar.
Obviously, the Hitman series has a bunch of different gadgetry, and that's been a key part of, you know, selecting your loadout and things like that. But gadgets work slightly differently in 007 First Light. For a start, they're sort of powered by a like Q resource, which is this kind of like scientific beaker thing. And the way you sort of charge that up is by collecting like resources within the level. So again, it's that resource management that we didn't really have to worry about so much in Hitman, has now become a kind of key thing. And you'll see as he's walking around, he'll like grab something off a table, and that will add to his kind of key resource points. I assume it's all just AA batteries. He's just like shoving all his batteries into his gadgets.
Something like that.
But it's really interesting that there appears to be a sort of like default sort of loadout of gadgets that you have available to you at all times via your watch and your phone and things like that. So there's a kind of phone dart thing which appears to work a bit like emetic poison, like it will make people feel a bit sick and they'll go and have a sit down or so. I don't think they go and like throw up in the toilets or anything necessarily, but they'll go and have a sit down, and that's available to you.
Low-key sedative dart.
Yeah.
What the... God, sorry. Oh, my...
And then there's a laser that you can use to drop chandeliers, or I think blind people, temporarily blind people, dazzle them.
Yeah, you can use it as a direct sort of offensive attack, but I think what they want you to do is things like dropping chandeliers and affecting stuff in the environment. There's a smoke bomb which creates a gigantic cloud of smoke, which again, like that doesn't feel very like secret agency to fill a room with smoke, but it does allow you to go in and do sort of unseen takedowns on people. So the other thing you can do is like hack people's watches, like I guess smart watches and things like that. And
right.
that really reminded me of Watch Dogs 2's kind of quick hacks. It feels like these things are kind of, you'll get into a flow of just kind of deploying this stuff as it's available and as you have resources to spend, which is going to be quite nice, rather than, that kind of Hitman thing of like you go into the inventory and then you find and equip the thing you want, and then they seem to have kind of put all these things on shortcuts so you can kind of bring up the watch interface and then you have all these things accessible to you and you just aim at someone and deploy it.
What was that?
I'll have a quick look.
It should hopefully allow for a bit more of a free-flowing style of play than maybe Hitman gadgets typically do. And our last point is not necessarily we don't know for sure if it's a difference, but it feels like intuitively like it will be a difference, which is the idea of 007 First Light as a live service-esque game. Obviously, one of the things that has kept Hitman popular for so long and made it a constant feature on our channel is this sort of idea of live service and new content being added at all times, and the ability to do elusive targets and things like that.
Get the camera all up in his face, in his mad's face.
Okay, I'm gonna.
Yeah, there you go. Oh yeah.
There he is.
There's your man.
There's Mads.
And I did talk to the developers and try and press them to see whether this live service approach would be taken with 007 First Light. They didn't reveal anything, and when they talked about replayability, they really talked in the sort of within the constraints of like, oh well, you can replay a level and play it as a slightly different, in a different mindset, as a slightly different version of James Bond in terms of like whether you're more sneaky or more loud or whatever.
Depending on the situation and the odds, Bond can always go with a quick and blunt strategy.
So they were very, very cagey about not even necessarily cagey, but all they talked about was, oh yeah, you can replay the missions, right? Which is a sort of like tiny sliver of the replay value of something like Hitman, which has all these different escalations, elusive targets, and stuff like that. But one thing to bear in mind is that obviously when publishers and developers are promoting a video game, quite often they don't want to talk about everything all at once, and this is the very first we've seen of this game in motion. So it is possible, and this might be me clinging on to hope, that they are yet to announce the live service features of this game, right? And that they will have a sort of World of Assassination type level of longevity and replay value. So maybe I'm being hopeful here, but also, like I was saying, the levels are so big. It feels like they're big playgrounds for that kind of
big,
elusive
expensive
target.
to develop playgrounds that you wouldn't possibly make for a single story mission.
Exactly that. So I'm holding out hope that I feel like it's been so key to IO Interactive's success, this World of Assassination thing. It's made Hitman so popular over a long period of time. I feel like there'll have to be some approach, and the only thing that would stand in the way of that would be licensing stuff, right? Like, no, you can't do that with James Bond and blah, blah, blah. So I asked about that as well. One of the things I asked was, one of the most famous things about James Bond is the rogues gallery, the villains, the Bond villains, right? And I said to them, look, is it limiting because you are just telling an origin story, and obviously all of the first meetings between Bond and his legendary villains have all been told before. And they weren't prepared to say anything specific, but they did say to stay tuned, and they said, the developer said, I don't feel very limited right now. So
okay.
I would be surprised if we don't see...
You're saying DLC Blofeld, DLC.
Well, yeah, we already had
DLC villains that you
yeah.
go in and assassinate in a
in one of the levels. That would be that'd be amazing, wouldn't it? Like they've already done it with Mads Mikkelsen, and it worked beautifully in Hitman. And they lavished a lot more attention onto that like small DLC than I think they needed to. Really.
Well played, Mr. Reaper.
I mean, not
What do you
really.
mean,
Well played. We lost.
Look at his
No.
chips going up.
Okay.
Oh no! Is it the champagne?
Oh, the champagne was
You've been
poisoned.
drugged.
No.
Yeah, even I know
wait.
you shouldn't.
That's what happens in Casino Royale,
No.
isn't it?
There were multiple different routes to succeed. Some of them quite like involved. There's one where you get like you get poisoned and then you wake up in a basement and there's all these sort of and the the fact that you can sit there and play the card game. Oh my god! Look, we've got 50 million chips.
Right.
And we've got
Oh
I hope we don't have to be actually good at poker.
Yeah.
So I can imagine a scenario where the elusive targets in 007 First Light are these classic, James Bond villains from all history of sort of.
You've got to go in and get Odd Job or.
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly. Yeah, or any of them really. I think that would be brilliant, and there's such a
Now
rich.
that sounds like a licensing nightmare. Like when you license James Bond, do you get all the villains in that bundle, or do you have to like negotiate?
I think
one at a time. If there's likenesses involved, presumably there's like each one has to be like a handcrafted agreement with an actor or something.
Yeah, I think it will be. I think where they can get licenses, they probably will. I mean, obviously they got Mads Mikkelsen, and that was perfect.
But then I guess if you're casting your James Bond, right? You're like, this actor is our new James Bond. He doesn't look like any of the other James Bonds.
Yeah.
You can create like a version, like an iteration of an iconic Bond villain, but he doesn't look like he did in the in the movie. He looks different, but he has the same name. He has the same gimmick or whatever.
And I could see a situation where you're like, all right, well, if there is a celebrity available who could be Scaramanga or whoever, you could be like, elusive target is blah 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 as Scaramanga. Like you could do some kind of fun stuff with it as well. So yeah, I think there's potential there. And
Like how they had Gary Busey in Hitman.
Right. Yeah, Sean Bean, Gary Busey,
Scaramanga.
Mads Mikkelsen. Yeah, Gary Busey, Scaramanga.
Well, they're mates with Sean Bean. You could get Sean Bean in to do like a James Bond cameo, Goldeneye style.
I would be amazed if there isn't a 006
Oh, hell
Trevelyan elusive target.
Bring us Sean Bean.
You heard it here first. If it happens, you have to come back and like comment on this video.
Leave it in the comments, please. Yeah. Oh man, that would be brilliant. Sean Bean in a Bond game.
Well, here we go.
Do it.
Oh, damn!
Damn!
Oh, jeez! Oh my god.
Yes, please. Another Bond game, that is.
I think it's going to be different from the World of Assassination. I don't know if it's going to be as extensive, but I really hope there is a sort of World of 007.
World of Espionage.
World of Espionage type thing in this game, and I'm desperate for them to do a big reveal at some point between now and March 26th when the game comes out that reveals all that stuff. So.
Yeah, it feels like there has to be something.
It's been so successful for them
in the pipeline. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's got to be surely the only like you say. Licensing might be tricky in some of those circumstances, and that's the only thing I can think of that might stand in the way of them doing the sort of thing they've done in Hitman.
Well, you could do something that's, I guess, less licensing dependent, which is like the what do they call it when it's just some rando in the level that become? I guess it could be an elusive target or something. But when it's just
contracts mode where you can
contracts mode.
You get to pick. Yeah. I mean, you can imagine a sort of contracts mode type scenario, and maybe these playground, these big levels that are kind of have those narrative moments. Maybe when you go into contract mode, it just becomes the playground, and you can just you don't have to worry so much about hitting your marks, as it were. Although the optics of James Bond infiltrating a big glamorous level to just off a random civilian. Yes.
I mean, I guess you'd have to layer on some sort of James Bond pretext for why this civilian is not a civilian and actually needs to be assassinated.
Yeah.
But like pure assassination is not James Bond's.
Not really James Bond's
job,
style,
is it? Yeah. So there's ways and means, though. I trust IO to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, they know what they're doing, certainly. I mean, if Hitman has proven anything, it's that they've got a real knack for this sort of like freeform gameplay. And I'm, for one, I'm fascinated to see when the final product comes out, how they've managed to marry that freeform gameplay with the stronger narrative that that this game is going to have.
Now, let's see what all the fuss is about.
But yeah, we've got a little way to wait. It's March 26th. It's due to come out. I can't wait. You will see a lot of it on this YouTube channel, obviously, because we are very, very much into Hitman, and we are very excited about this game in particular. So let us know in the comments what you think about it. Any other differences, any similarities that you're excited about as well. And please do stay tuned to Outside Xbox for more from 007 First Light, and also for more from Hitman as well. There's a lot of that coming as well. Co-op mode, for example, is coming in Hitman as well. So those guys at IO have been busy. Yes. Keep it locked to Outside Xbox. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.